Welcome back, legends. I hope you're all fantastic. We are checking out Lava Studio today. They have just released a new update that not only adds IR loading, it adds native NAM support and integration with the TONE3000 website so you can get access to over 25,000 different amp profiles. Before we dive into depth on this, I want to give you a very quick demo of what this sounds like in my living room. I'll start out with the volume nice and low, and then we'll crank it. Let's begin with an overview of the Lava Studio user interface. The screensaver page is going to double up as your Bluetooth playback center, so you can use this as a functional piece of furniture as well as a guitar amp. In the sound section, you have all of your presets. You can see I've just dialed in a couple of basic presets in here. And if I click over here, I can get into the signal chain. And this is going to give you access to the routing grid and all the effects. For example, in this particular preset, I'm starting out with this studio style compressor. I have the Horsey overdrive, which is currently bypassed. I have one of the Lava AI amp models. This is a new model for this firmware called the Concert. I have loaded up my free LTTV Mix 7 cab IR. If you want that one, it's in the video description. The IR loader is also a new feature in this firmware. I have a touch of this rotary speaker and a little bit of this hall reverb. Let's quickly hear this and then a couple of other sounds. We also heard a couple of sounds using the new NAM loader in this firmware. We will come to that. I'll show you how to import NAM files from TONE3000 as well as using the Lava Cloud to import your own NAM captures. You would have noticed in a couple of those presets to rearrange effects. Like let's say I wanted to swap the order of this tri-chorus and this retro chorus. I simply press, hold, drag, and drop. It's all nice and fast on there. If I want to add a new effect, I can simply add the effect. I love that they are organized by effect type. For example, at the start here, let's say that I wanted to add another modulation effect. I've got all of my mod effects grouped up in here, and I could come through and select yet another modulation on here. Let's say I wanted a tremolo at the start of the chain. I can do that, and then I can tweak it. A cool thing in the settings up here is you can change the gesture settings on here. So rotate mode, which lets you use a single finger for circular gestures, or slide mode. The rotate mode feels a little bit more like actually using a knob rather than the traditional slide mode. But if you're somebody who's used a bunch of guitar modeling apps on something like an iPad, slide mode might be a little bit more familiar. We'll circle back around to that, and I'll dial in a preset from scratch using the NAM block and the IR loader. Let's move on though, because we've got the Lava Plus section over here. You've got integrated backing tracks and loops. You've also got access to lessons based on skills, improvisations, different collections, and instructors. You can even upload your own clips and post them to the feed section on here as well. There is a mini DAW section as well, so you can use this as a studio to record your own ideas. There's also AI stem isolation. Now, you get a bunch of credits for this. That is a paid or subscription add-on in there. We'll come back right at the end and record something over a backing track. There's a sharing section as well, so you can share your presets and download other users' presets. I like that that's all integrated into Lava Studio. Then the More section will give you access to updates. You can update automatically on the unit. There's an app center and access to YouTube on here. Again, this is a lot more than just a practice app. It's a media hub as well. And then you've got the Lava Cloud, where you can upload tracks, pictures, audio files, and NAM and IR files. So for example, in here, I've got a bunch of backing tracks that I made over here. What I might do is just quickly jam over one of them. In the bottom right-hand corner, you have an interesting section which will track your 30-day activity on this. So if you wanted to use this kind of like a Fitbit for guitar practice, you can do that as well. Up in the settings section, you've got access to the overall master volume, the brightness of the screen, you've got your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi connection, you've got access to the metronome and the tuner, as well as an instant record function. There's even more settings in here where you can get in and get your software updates. Again, you can play around with pretty much everything you would need, as well as a spatial sound option and a global EQ. All right, let's go back over to the sounds, and we're going to create a tone from scratch. So I'm going to hit new up here. This will create an empty grid. I'm going to start out with an amp and a cab. So let's add the amp to start out with. Now, you can, again, group all of these. If we go to electric, we have all the Lava AI amp models, and you'll see there's a bunch of V2 models in here. So let's start out with something Marshally. We'll do the MA JMP 50. I will add that one in there. The next thing I can do is go to the cab section. Now, you'll notice that I haven't had a cab automatically added on there. That is something that you can set up to automatically add the cab. I am going to use my free IR though, because you have a bunch of guitar and bass cabs by default. We can go to the IR loader though, and what I can do is search my IRs. Now, I have imported these from the Lava Cloud. Basically, on my computer, I went to the Lava Cloud website, uploaded these IRs, and then synced them on here. Let's say I want to use this particular IR. I will do that. I'll hit done, and it loads it into this IR loader. What I've got now is an amp and a cab sound. Let's dial in the amp. pretty cool. If I want to swap that one out, I just hit the switch button down here. You can see there's a pretty diverse selection of amps covering most of the main food groups. The big appeal with this update though is NAM support. So if I come over here, I can load up NAM files either by using the Lava Cloud or accessing the TONE3000 website. So if I go here to discover more, you'll see I can actually access the TONE3000 website natively on the app. Let's do that and download something from TONE3000. If you're unfamiliar with TONE3000, you're able to upload your own reamps on here. It will train them into NAM captures and you can share them with the community. You can search in here by tags, make some models, different creators, and also technical specs. Let's just do this. Let's look at what the most popular or the most downloaded NAM capture of all time is. I'm curious about this because I want to try it out. So it is this Mesa Boogie Badlander Rectifier 100 watt. Let's click on that. I think you click over here to access it, and then I'm able to download this. I'm going to use the download button. It gives me a warning saying, hey, this is just an amp head capture. We will do that. It is going to load it into Lava Studio now, and I can use this NAM capture instead of an amp block. I can even go through, if I take this, let's say select, what do I want? Maybe crunch lead number 2. I can skin it over here and go to done, and I'm ready to try this out. Let's hear it. They've done a really good job integrating this. That could not be more seamless. What I've done is loaded some of my own NAM captures in here. So if I go to discover more, you can see down here, I've got a list of all the NAM captures that I've loaded in. I can also import them from the Lava Cloud. So like I said earlier, I uploaded some of my own IRs and my NAM captures to the Lava Cloud website. You can see now these are the available NAM captures that I can import from the cloud into my unit. Let's maybe take this LT Recto, I'll hit import and I'll be able to drag that in. In the meantime though, what I'll do is I'll bring up one of my own NAM captures. Let's take this giant Chungus capture over here. I'll use the LT chunk file. Again, I can skin this with a cool color or something. I'll hit done over here. And now I can try out my own NAM capture. That sounded killer already. Let's go through and build out the rest of this preset. I will start first in the chain with a noise gate. I'm just going to start out with the basic noise gate right there to kill some of that hiss. I would not mind having some kind of wobbly modulation at the start of the chain. So let's go to the mod section. I really like the phase 90 on there. Let's start with that and we'll turn the speed down just a little bit. I'm going to bypass that for now. We'll go to the end of the chain and add a reverb at the end of the chain. So let's go to the reverb section. What do we have? We've got bright, cathedral reverb plus, chamber, room, plate, mod, hall, shimmer, and spring. I always like starting out with a plate reverb on guitars. Let's just bring the mix down on this because I feel like we only need a little bit of plate reverb. That's totally cool. That's just taking that direct edge off the tone. Let's come over to this effect block and add some modulation now. I really like the retro chorus. I'm guessing this is modeled on a Juno. The one thing that I do want to do is turn the mix down somewhere around 28%. And while we're here, let's add some delay to everything. There's multiple delay options, including an analog and lo-fi delay, a tape delay, there's ping pong, a digital delay, and slapback. I reckon the digital delay will be just fine for my needs. 420 milliseconds is a good starting point. I like that there's a dedicated high cut control in here as well. Where can we take the high cut? We can take it all the way down. So maybe let's go around 4 or 5K on the high cut. A little bit more feedback, but a little less overall mix. Let's have a listen to that, and I can bring this modulation tone in and out as I like. Once I'm happy with that, I can come up here, click these 3 dots, and I can name the preset. I'll give it a super imaginative name like LT Chunk or something like that. It even gives me a bunch of suggestions on there. So yep, we'll call it LT Chunky. I'm happy with that. I can save that. You'll also notice a few other settings like the auto cab, reactive light, and scenes feature. I should let you see what the reactive light does. Personally, I like to keep that one off, but hey, it's pretty cool if you want to use it. I could also switch this out to some other NAM files on here. Let's hear my LT800 NAM file. Same settings as before. This is based on the Synergy 800 module. Having all of these features in the app is great, but if the sounds aren't right, I'm not going to use it. Having the NAM captures and the IR loading in there makes me very happy and very satisfied. Let's take this tone that I just made, and what I'll do is I'll go over to the Lava Plus section and I'll quickly jam over a little backing track. So you can go through all these different styles. Let's go to, say, Samurai Jam tracks and see what's offered up in there. Using this high gain lead over some smooth neo soul or funk may not be the most appropriate thing, but hey, I'm willing to give it a go. Let's go with this one. That's actually pretty sick and a lot of fun to play over. This gets around having to go to something like YouTube and just endlessly scrolling through a bunch of tracks, and for me, inevitably getting distracted by watching videos of cats and skateboarding. Let's go over to the mini DAW now. We could start out by taking an existing song and using the built-in AI stem isolation. We just use a blank project, or we could start with a drum section or backing track. Let's bring in something from the Lava Cloud because I've got a bunch of my own backing tracks in here. What I wouldn't mind doing is having a crack at playing over a ragdoll tune. So I'm going to take this short little snippet from the Sky's Limit solo. Once that has been dragged in, I'm going to create a new track. There's going to be my guitar track on here, and let's just have a crack at it. I'm going to use that existing tone. I might turn this down a little bit using the slider here. Let's see if I can get it first go. I should be able to, right? It's my own song. All right, happy days. You can now see I've got my backing track, the guitar that I've just recorded. I could solo that if I really want to embarrass myself. All right, and when I'm happy with that, I can either save it or then hit the export function over here. I've got multiple different ways to export this, either as a stereo or mono mix. I can export stems on here, which I really like, and I can export it as a wave or an MP3. The practice amp market has traditionally been dominated by lower cost options, and there is absolutely a place for that. They often come with the caveat of, can you believe what it does for the price? This is priced differently. It feels premium. It kind of feels like if Apple were going to make a guitar amp, what they would come out with. And it's something that I'm happy to have here in the living room, even if I'm not going to play guitar, being able to use it as a really sweet sounding Bluetooth speaker in here, with the added advantage of being able to plug a guitar in, have NAM captures, IRs, a DAW, backing track features, and of course, all the tutorial and lesson focused content on there. For someone like me who has spent 2 decades building a home studio and going through so many different options, this is going to be perfect for someone either starting out who doesn't want to skimp on quality, or somebody who doesn't have any experience with recording or doesn't want to be too techie with their guitar sound, and they just want something that sounds good in the room to play through. It also has that feeling, which I think is really important with guitar gear, where you can grow with it a little bit. If you were a beginner and this was your first amp that you ever had, you're going to get a lot of use out of that. Even for somebody like me, I know I'm going to get a lot of use out of this, because as much as I love being in the home studio, sometimes I just want to get out of that environment. I want to sit on the couch. I want to watch an episode of a TV show with the cats crawling all over me and noodle away on guitar. And rather than have something that sounds like it's coming out of a jam jar, having something that sounds pretty fantastic with my own NAM captures in it is certainly appealing. I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments section below. Is this something you went and grabbed when it launched? Are you stoked to see the new features in here? I'll certainly be awaiting how they roll out new features from here, because having the NAM support is awesome. I would like to see the effects fleshed out a lot more, a much bigger variety, say, of drives, modulations, and delays. Some more, say, studio quality reverbs in there as well would be pretty awesome. But as it is, you know, this feels pretty complete, and that's quite rare with this sort of product. I really hope we see other manufacturers, maybe some more established players, pick up this kind of format and see what they can do. I mean, imagine Line 6 or Fractal making something like this. Is that something you'd be interested in? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to play you all out with a little jam over a backing track that I made. If you want to support what I do, you want to get the backing tracks, the NAM captures, a whole bunch of extra content, check out the Patreon that is linked in the video description. You can grab my free IR there, and you can check out the music that I make with my band Ragdoll. A big thank you to Lava Music for sending this out so I could make this video, and to all of you for watching this long. I massively appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one.